I'd like to introduce Yeukai, who's going to tell you her story and remind us why we're all here.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. I'm here tonight to share with you my story as an asylum seeker or refugee living in the UK. It's been 10 years now since arriving here from Zimbabwe. I came when I was 18 years. And at that time, I was a young person with high hopes, looking forward to the future, just completing my A-levels in Zimbabwe. During that time, as a young person with a lot of enthusiasm and seeing so many changes in Zimbabwe, I felt that I had to contribute in terms of changing my future, my generation in Zimbabwe, which I got involved supporting the opposition party, the MDC, Movement for Democratic Change. I was quite naive. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But all I had at the back of my mind is that I am the future of Zimbabwe and I have to fight for my country. I then started attending different kinds of rallies for the MDC. As a young person, mobilizing other students, campaigning for change, and that got myself into trouble with ZANU-PF, which is being ruled by Robert Mugabe. Since my involvement, I then realized that if I'm not very careful, my life would be cut short because of the death threats, intimidation that I was facing. Just prior to coming to the UK, I was coming from a rally. It was in the evening, around 7 o'clock. The ZANU-PF army just raided on us, disturbed our peace, it disturbed everything that we were planning. I just found myself to be on the ground with a man behind me holding me down, saying to me, "Why are you supporting the opposition party?" Forcing me to say that I'm supporting ZANU-PF. I was so scared of my life. I was very scared of my life. I had to confirm to what he was saying. Immediately, because I said, yes, I'm a supporter of ZANU-PF, at the end, I was released to go home. When I got home, my mom was very scared. I think just like any mother would be scared for their child. But I felt inside myself, I said, no, I have to do this. I have to fight. And without me being involved, what would I say to myself? That I was just quiet? But I was really scared. Really, really scared. I left Zimbabwe to come to the UK for safety, because I've heard UK respects human rights. I came to the UK in 2001. When I came here, I had high hopes as well. That, new beginnings. I couldn't think of anything of myself, and just being here, I thought, well, I'll really go on with my life. And in 2 years back, I'll go back to Zimbabwe because things will be fine. When I got to the airport, immediately landing out of the plane, an immigration officer came to me and asked my name and everything, and asked, why are you here? And I told them my story. And they said, do you want to seek asylum? I said, what's that? Because I don't know what asylum is. I've never heard of that word before. I think I was in the interview room for about 2 hours until another lady came to me and I explained the process. It was based on my story. She said, you are seeking asylum. I was told to sign a paper, which I reluctantly just signed. As soon as I signed that paper, I was told that I would be sent to a holding center. But before going to the holding center, 2 men came to me. One was holding my arm, and the other one was holding my other arm. They were wearing police, not police, but officers' uniform. I then said, what's going on? Why are you taking me? Why are you holding me like this? And they said, oh, because you're going to be detained. And the reason why I was scared, not only that they're wearing uniform, but it reminded me of my experience at home. And me having that hope that I wouldn't be treated like this. I wasn't expecting 2 officers holding my hands when I had done nothing. I was taken to a van. I was sitting behind a van. I don't know if you know the police van with like a cage. You know, you'd be caged inside with windows that wouldn't open. I was taken to Oakington Removal Center. Immediately I got there, I saw everybody people were crying, people were traumatized. I was scared because I thought I'm being taken into prison and I had not done anything. But fortunately, there was one person from the Refugee Council, the gentleman who came to talk to me, to listen to my story. I felt calm, and I felt for the first time someone is listening to me. He explained everything. He made me feel welcome. He reassured me to be calm and comfortable. But what then frightened me was that I then was told that I've got an interview the following day about my story, about my case. I had not prepared for an interview because it's not something that I was looking forward to. The following day, I was interviewed by an immigration officer who was asking me so many questions that I couldn't understand at all. He didn't care whether I answered them well. He didn't want to hear what I was saying. He was just asking me questions that were said, and I felt intimidated. I felt scared. Even now, I don't even remember what I was saying. But what I remember was receiving a thick folder with a refusal. That was 2 days after. So I was told, your case has been refused. You don't have enough evidence to support your claim. I then spoke to a duty solicitor. I was like, what evidence? What's evidence? What do you want me to? I'm the evidence. I'm here. I'm telling you my story. Whilst that was going on, there were possibilities that from that Oakington, we were going to be sent to further detention. I was scared again because I didn't know what further detention meant. Was it further was it as worse as that? Or I didn't understand. I was only 18. Again, the gentleman from the Refugee Council came and explained everything. And he said he'll help me get accommodation, a hostel outside detention. I was fortunate enough that week that I'm leaving this place, and I went to live in a hostel accommodation that the Refugee Council offered to me. The immigration told me to report every week to a police station. They just gave me papers to fend myself, like to read and, find out whether I should, how to register with a doctor, for instance, how to go about London, basically. I found my life very hard, even harder than I thought. Because here I was in a foreign land with no one, couldn't understand the language, couldn't understand the culture. I struggled to even register with a GP, which took me 2 years. All the GPs I was going to, they would ask me for an ID. And I had to tell my story and explain that my passport is being held with the Home Office. This is the paper I have. But they didn't want to register. But fortunately enough, another fellow asylum seeker referred me to a very good GP who said, go and register there. They understand asylum seekers. That's how I had registered after 2 years. I couldn't afford to be sick at all. Whilst that was going on, between 2001, I kept on reporting every week. By the time it was 2005, that was 4 years, the Home Office wouldn't write to me. The Home Office wouldn't decide on my case. I was now thinking, I'm growing old. At this time, I should have been in school just like my peers. I should have, have been having my life. But I felt as a young person, I was not enjoying myself. The struggles that I was facing is something that adults should be facing, but I shouldn't be bearing those problems. I was so stressed. I was so traumatized. Sometimes I would feel even suicidal. I didn't know I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I'll just get on a bus 25, and be on it until it gets to its destination and come back, just to pass time. In 2005, I went to report, as a normal thing. Again, the immigration officer said to me, your case has been refused. We are sending you back. I asked, I didn't see any letter. Why is it you haven't written to me? And they said, no, we're telling you now, your case has been refused. I couldn't understand it. 4 years not communicating, and they waited for me to report on that day. Just as a normal day, I was coming out of my room, going to report with my handbag, expecting to come back and be doing the normal things. I was again detained, but this time it was really, really bad. Really, really scary. I was reporting at Communications House in Old Street. Immediately, they took me right into a van again, and all the experience came back to me. I was driven to a detention center near Gatwick, Heathrow Airport. That was not a detention, that was a prison I was in. I stayed there for 3 days in a room with a toilet and a sink and with no windows opening. I couldn't go out. The food was being passed through a door. If it's lunchtime, they would open the door and hand the food to me. I didn't have any appetite. I tried to cry for help, but no one would hear you because it's all sealed up. I asked them, why are you doing this to me? Have I done anything wrong? Have I committed a crime? What crime have I committed? But no one would tell me. But the only crime I committed was to seek refuge in the UK. From then on, I was taken to Yaleswood. Again. In Yaleswood, I was amazed to see so many women and children as young as weeks old, really. Immediately at Yaleswood, they took out everything from me. I didn't have any clothes that time because they only detained me when I was reporting. I really felt my world was ended. Whilst in Yaleswood for 2 good months, the daily life was to wake up in the morning, go and have breakfast. But before you're getting out in the morning, going to the next room, there are officers searching you through. You go to the dining hall, you have your lunch, you come back. That was the life. In the evening, you go for dinner, you come back, no development, nothing. And during that time, I wasn't allowed to have a mobile phone inside, or visiting was restricted. I wasn't allowed to have anything. And the thing in detention, unlike someone who is in prison, you'd know, if you're in prison, you'd know I'm here for 9 months or for 2 years. But in detention, you actually do not know how long you would be there for, whether it's indefinite. That was really scary for me. I was just thinking back, all my life, I've been living in captivity like this. I've no freedom. When will one day, when will I be able to even go to the shops, or even to walk down the road, or even just to, get on the bus without having a heart jumping? One day in Yaleswood, at 11 o'clock, 3 officers came and knocked in the room I was sleeping. And they said again, "Pack your bags." I said, where are you taking me to? And said, "No, we don't know. We've just been instructed that you should pack your bags." Again, that moment dawned on me. I didn't have any bags. I just picked my little bag that I had. I was put in a van. I asked the officer, "Where are you taking me to? Are you taking me to the airport? Are you releasing me? Are you sending me back to Zimbabwe? What's going on? At least somebody tell me." Then they said, "We're taking you to another detention." And that time it was in Scotland. I was in the van from Bedfordshire to Scotland. Almost a 9-hour journey on the road. Very uncomfortable. Very exhaustive. Very traumatic. When I arrived at Dangaville in Scotland, again, I met different people. But this time the experience was really different, because the detention there in Dangaville, there were men. I was used to being with women, where I felt very comfortable. But that time I was seeing men, and most of them were ex-prisoners. They were not people of my experience. I felt different. We were only 6 women during that time, would dine in the same room. I felt that intimidating. I felt uncomfortable again. I even pleaded that please at least take me back to Bedfordshire, where there are people I know, where there are friends who are near London. But this far, I was really somewhere where I didn't know. My solicitor was really, really supportive. She was helping me consider my case to be considered by the Home Office, but at least at that time, to be released from detention, at least. After 3 weeks at Dangavo in Scotland, the immigration officer came back to me and said, "We are releasing you. You can go back to London." It was the happiest moment of my life. I thought, oh, at least I'm out. But it wasn't complete. I needed my freedom, 100%. I needed to be me, to come back to myself. Because as an asylum seeker, someone is controlling your life somewhere. I was not working. I was not studying. I couldn't open an account. Just a mere account. To have something in your name, I didn't have. My own passport, I didn't have. When I was released from Scotland to London, I was given a ticket to Euston Station. I was really excited. But I didn't realize that that ticket was only getting me to Euston. Whoever arranged the ticket, just thought, well, London. I then noticed that when I got to Euston, trying to get on the underground, well, only my ticket was taken away from the machine that was only stopping at Euston. But I didn't care even to walk back home because I felt, oh, it's better to even walk home than being in a prison. When I got home, I continued, but my immigration conditions were restricted even more because I was now a failed asylum seeker with no support. My accommodation was taken away. The room I was living in, I couldn't get any vouchers. So it was a time that I had to now fend myself again. At that time was one of the most vulnerable time of my life because I didn't have anywhere to live. I stayed on, I would go and sleep in someone's dining for a few days. Then I would try and find somewhere to live again. The church group sometimes would go there and get help, handouts from the church and within my community. But I came back to the Refugee Council for support. I remember coming every lunch to eat at the day center, which has been very, very good for me. I met new people. I was inspired again. I felt hope. I felt that there is hope out there. There is hope. I started getting more and more involved with the Refugee Council. And I remember I applied for volunteering opportunities because I felt it's about 6 years. Where am I going without any skill? Where am I going to start? All my peers have moved on. What am I going to do? When I started engaging with the Refugee Council, they noticed the person I am. They took me as I am. They didn't judge me, as I was used to a world where I was judged. I was used by the Home Office who would just use me. I felt different every time I was entering the building. I felt here are people who see me as a person, but don't judge me in other ways. There were opportunities at the Refugee Council. I decided to get involved in campaigning on the issues of Zimbabwe, asylum seekers in Zimbabwe. The support that we're getting there as Zimbabweans, for example, is to print, small things, but it really made a lot of difference. To use the internet, to run our campaigns. We met different people from other countries. We joined up. And all that support, for me, made a very big difference and made the person I am today. Until 2009, the Home Office again wrote to me. But this time it was different. Within this, the letter was saying, thank you for your application for 2001. And they would like to grant you indefinite leave. That was a relief for me. I said, why did it take them since 2001 to write back to me? Why did they take so long? Up to now, I've just recently completed my degree in international development at London Metropolitan University, which I'm really, really thankful. My hopes are to go home, because I know Zimbabwe will be safe again. I have hope for my country, and I want to rebuild Zimbabwe. But whilst I'm in the UK, I would like to give back to the communities, to be involved, to work with the refugee community, with asylum seekers, with the Refugee Council, to give back and make a difference. Because for me, I got so much support. Without the support of the Refugee Council, without that, all that help that I got since 2001, I don't think I would have been where I am now. And I would like to give back, and I would really want to thank the Refugee Council and everyone, all the staff that have supported me through and through the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yeukai, and especially thank you for your strength and your passion. Every time I hear you speak or I meet you, it reminds me why I do the job that I do. You're a very, very special person. We're coming to the end of the formal part of the event now. And I want to first off round off by doing the thank yous, which is always a nice bit. First of all, can you give a huge thank you to Jemima and Yeukai, our amazing speakers who've shared their passion and their personal stories so openly and generously this evening. Can I thank Frank Villiers of Brunswick PR and all of his staff, both for the venue and for their support in putting the event on. And also thank the Refugee Council staff, because they've had such a tough year, but their passion for helping refugees remains completely undiminished. And when you talk to some of them later on this evening, you'll see exactly what I mean. I mentioned earlier that Lawrence Staten and the GLC Charitable Trust has offered an unrestricted donation of £120,000. But only if we can raise the same from our supporters. We have to raise this money by next Thursday, the 28th of July, because that's the exact anniversary of the signing of the convention. And if we don't do that, we lose the match funding. We've already raised 41,000, but we still have another 79,000 to go. So if you can help us reach our target, then that 120,000 will be doubled to 240,000. Which would fund our therapeutic casework for a year, helping 400 traumatised refugees rebuild their lives. or a year of our influencing work that delivers real improvements to the asylum system and changes hearts and minds so that refugees are welcome in the UK, and so we can make Yeukai's experience a thing of the past in this country. And in terms of individual gifts, £3,000 feeds 150 destitute asylum seekers for a week. £1,000 helps us free a child from adult detention. And £650 helps a torture survivor rebuild their life. I do hope you can join us all now for the next part of the evening, which is drinks and canapes in the function room. And that will give you a chance to talk more about refugee issues and the things you've heard today, and to meet our staff as well as to meet each other, because our staff will be delighted to tell you more about our work, as well as how to make a gift that will go towards meeting our match fund target. But we also hope before you leave this evening that you will sign our Proud to Protect Refugees pledge, so joining over 6,000 people who've already signed this pledge this year, giving a clear message to the government that British people are proud to protect refugees. And there's a card in your pack for those of you who've not already signed. So thank you so much for coming here tonight and joining the Refugee Council and Yeukai and Jemima in celebrating the Refugee Convention and the countless lives it saved since 1951. Drinks and canapes.